Each year in the fall, we get questions about deep tillage. What do we think about deep tillage? What are the advantages and disadvantages? Anything new coming? What should we do, especially to manage all this residue we have coming off a big crop year?
Well, I think that's really the key. You know, if guys have increased, and maybe you're one of them, populations of corn, and we had a great yield, we got all this residue out in the field. And I mean, I can just look across this field and see, wow, we got quite a bit of residue out here to deal with. Yeah, doing deep tillage and blackening that field up is a way to get rid of some of that residue, get that breakdown process sped up quickly, and also end up with a more even seed bed going into next spring.
Yeah, but here's the problem. You talk about burning up the residue, it also burns up organic matter that's in your soil a lot faster. So if you look over the last 100 years in the United States, what have we done with organic matter levels? We have continued to decrease those on the farm. That's not a good thing long term. So ideally, if you're going to do a whole bunch of deep tillage year after year after year, you better be using cover crops, manure, lots of high rooting crops like corn, for example, that have a tremendous amount of roots and a tremendous amount of residue, so you're not depleting your organic matter very quickly. So there is a downside to this deep tillage. The other thing is, if you deep till to the same depth all the time, chances are you're going to create a hard pan there. So whether you're plowing, you're deep ripping, whatever you're doing, you got to think about that. What we've done on our farm for deep tillage, we've done a fair amount of what we call zone building. It's deep ripping, but just with a straight shank and a narrow point. So we're really not blackening the soil a whole lot. It's just going down, creating some slots for roots to get down to reduce compaction, and then lifting the soil a little bit and placing it right back down. So that's one way we've gone, so we don't have the burnup of organic matter. We don't destroy a lot of the residue that we see on the soil surface. We're just creating some strips out there, and that's worked quite well.
All right, so you talked about the residue management aspect, and yes, there's a lot of guys that use deep tillage for residue management. The other thing you started getting into there was compaction management, and this is one that we've had calls from all across the country on our Ag PhD radio program this fall about, hey, it's wet this fall on my farm, and we're creating some ruts with the combines, with grain carts, with
those
trucks,
ruts can
whatever.
be deep.
And yeah, I've got deep ruts. I need to do some deep tillage to wipe that out. You know what? I totally get it. And hopefully you were able to control those traffic patterns so you just have certain areas of fields they have to do this deep tillage in. But in the case that you've got those ruts all across the field and we have to do some broad scale deep tillage, yes, this is definitely something we have to look at. We want to make sure that we're getting underneath those compacted areas. Now, I do have people every year that say, wait a second, what about freeze-thaw effect? You guys are way up north in the country. Aren't you up in the Dakotas? I'm like, I'm in South Dakota. And you know, yes, it's a long ways north, but hey, you know, we do get a freeze-thaw effect, and that can be beneficial. For some of the compaction that we've got, like vertical compaction, yeah, you can get some breakup of that with the freeze-thaw effect, but a lot of times that horizontal compaction that we've created, whether it's from doing tillage at the same depth all the time, or just that we packed things down because we were wet in the fall, a lot of times that freeze-thaw effect just swells up those compacted layers, and then in the spring they just settle right back together again. So don't count on freeze-thaw to wipe things out. Another good example I've got is wagon trails. You can still see some of those tracks from the wagon trails in undisturbed ground in the northern part of the United States. So freeze-thaw was going to fix it. You would have thought in over 100 years it might have done the job, but it hasn't.
We just encourage you to take a look at what all the options are. In some cases, in fact in many cases, deep tillage really can help you. Deep tillage definitely has its benefits.
Well, one of the benefits of deep tillage is wiping out the weeds that are out there at the time. Is our weed of the week one of them? We'll show you coming up next.